Jim. Well, good morning. Good morning to those of you joining us on the net. Anybody here for the first time? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Welcome. You brought a little one, I think. Did you? Did I see you walk in with a 2? Quite an adventure with children, isn't it? Quite an adventure with children. Finding a place you can take them that actually one wants to take them. My wife and I had quite a struggle with that with our kids. It's where could we find to go with them? So, for those of you that are here for the first time, I hope it's a success. I hope it turns out that you got up early and came, and that you find something here to really be of support to you in your journey. And if this isn't the place, keep looking, because here in Portland we have all the great traditions and dozens of smaller traditions too, with people who've really explored spiritual practice and are finding it helpful to them. It's pretty important to have help in our dealing with the remarkable instability of our lives and of the political circumstance and of the world. If we don't take responsibility for our own minds and hearts, then we wind up going on the trajectory of the world. And that's rather fraught with disaster. So if we want to be happy and be able to love each other, we have to co-create the circumstance in which we live. And it's really a challenge to do that. So to help us on our way, we have the refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Buddha, that which is awake. There's the whole wonderful story of the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, and the history and the teaching and all that. That's wonderful. But waking up is about being here now, right? Now and now and now. And so that which is capable of waking up is what the Buddha is, and we all have that. We don't have to practice for 20 years or something before we can have a taste of that. It's right here, right? Please become aware that you're seeing. There's the miracle right there. And then the Dharma, the teachings, and also even more fundamentally, what is it that we really experience when we're awake right now? What's happening now? What's happening now? What's happening now? What's true? And then the Sangha, the community of practice and the community of those who've gone before us and can show us the way to awakening. So we have this modern rendition of the refuges. I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya. The Buddha's first teaching, the first thing he thought important to say was that life is really hard. And there's a lot of suffering along the way. We take birth and then we go through somebody training, and there's absolutely no predictability of how things will go in our lifetime. And there are some standard issue dukkhas, sources of suffering, dukkha, that we all face: birth, sickness, old age, decay, and death. And then some really big categories: not having the experiences we'd like to have, having experiences we'd like to not have, being with persons that we'd rather not be with, and not being with the person or persons we'd like to be with. So we'd like to be healthy and loved and loving, and we'd like for love and communication and cooperation to rule the world. We'd like for our projects to succeed, our children to be healthy, happy. And so we're challenged really a lot and all the time. And we tend to think, oh, it's because I've done something wrong, or because I'm being punished, or because I had the wrong parents, or something. And what the Buddha taught was that it's possible to be happy, it's possible to be content, through really examining how the human mind and heart work. Not through believing in something that somebody says, doing it on blind faith, but by really using our own capacity to become true scientists, to observe the world and to observe how the mind is so embedded in liking and disliking the way things are, and through this examination discovering that in fact there can be contentment even in very difficult circumstances. So as people have done now for thousands of years, we sit down, we remind ourselves of awakeness and the way things are, and support ourselves in the community of practice. And then we ask an essential question. What's happening? What's real in this moment? Hearing, there's a sound in the distance. The mind makes an airplane out of that sound. And then maybe there are memories of being in a small plane sometime. Or another kind of sound happens and we recognize, oh, that's a car. We can notice that these sounds come and go, just like the sound of this voice. We can also notice that there is really a cloud or a collection of sensations, which are how we know there's a body here. We think of it as my body. When at best it's on loan. And the body provides a marvelous home base for awareness. Notice the life in what you think of as your hands. Or that which you think of as your face. But go beneath the name into the sensations. This body is alive and it breathes. Notice that you can actually attend or be present with, abide in the actual sensations of breathing in and breathing out. Each breath has a beginning. It then has a rising to fullness. The chest and abdomen expand. And then there's a decline, and then there's a vanishing. Part of our nature is also the fact that the mind thinks. It's what it does. It creates fantasies, images, remembrances of what we call a past or the past. It creates stories of a future. And these stories, the past and future, exist only now, in the mind now. And the fact that awareness can somehow or another be awakened to notice these stories of past and future is really one of the keys to awakening, to freedom, to suffering diminishing and going away, ceasing. So in its simplest form, we practice by becoming as intimate as we possibly can with the sensations of the body and the body breathing. And notice then when we've fallen into the trance of worry or planning or memory or anger or despair or joy or delight. Things are going my way and I'm really happy now. Awakening to this and then being here now in the breathing in and breathing out. Each and every breath has a beginning, just as every other experience in life has a beginning. It begins and then it rises to fullness, it flourishes itself. And this is true of the breath, of thoughts, of our cherished plans and relationships. Everything which has a beginning has a flourishing and then an ending. This is the nature of life this side of the Big Bang. Beginnings, living, dancing in the sun and disappearing. And if we're wise, we bring great accepting love to this process. What the Buddha called metta. It's the love in which there is room for everything. And this means we encounter great pleasure and great pain, success and failure, praise and blame, health and sickness. And we study this with mindfulness of breathing in and breathing out. Not an image of it, not an idea of it, but the actual reality of breathing in and breathing out. We get to notice how dominant the mind is, the fantasy life, the worrying, planning, the creation of hopes and fears, the remorse about actions in the past, or the bargaining, I wish I'd done this differently or that differently. The anger and resentment. And then we get to land in the coolness of the moment, this moment. turning inward like this to train and observe our own mind really goes against the stream of culture. Culture has the mistaken notion that happiness comes from consumption. It comes from dominance, winning. It comes from having a long list of to-dos to check off and be successful, and awards to win, and projects to complete. And the practice shows us that this moment is all that exists, and that it's right here that awakening and freedom and contentment occur. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in, aware of breathing in. Please notice how much the mind wanders. And notice what happens in that moment when awareness awakens in the midst of a wandering mind. And we sit for a little while and the body begins to manifest its natural discomfort. So we can attend carefully to that too. Discomfort and the body and the mind's reaction to discomfort. It's a longing to get rid of it or find something different. Please notice where your body makes contact with the floor or the buttocks with the cushion. Notice your upright sitting posture. Become aware of the life in the face, the cheeks, the lips, the eyes. And then do what it takes in terms of intention to allow the eyes to open, to make that happen. And then let it happen. Make it happen. Be in charge or in agency over these eyelids and open them well, watching, knowing what happens, seeing. Seeing objects appear. And then maybe movement, maybe there's discomfort of a certain kind and the impulse arises to stretch and then letting that happen, knowing that you're doing it. Did anyone peak today? Last Sunday, I encouraged people, sometimes, maybe times, during the meditation, notice curiosity perhaps, and then let your eyes open, look around, and see what it looks like. It looks like a room full of saintly beings, deeply in profound concentration, having kind thoughts of angels and blessing political figures. And in fact, who had a lot of wandering mind? Raise your hand, please. Who had thoughts of desire, wanting something that isn't here? Who had thoughts of really disliking what's happening here in the mind? How about sleepy dullness? How about restlessness and agitation? How about doubt? Doubt the practice killer. How about bliss or delight? How about faith, confidence? Yes, this is really going well. You're not very consistent. Happy, sad, tranquil, freaking out. It's amazing. These human minds are such a salad. Strange. Something I always say when I do an introduction for newcomers, of which I've done hundreds and hundreds in this lifetime, I always say something like, what I'm about to say is the most important thing that I'm going to say here today. And that is to examine what's your understanding of why you're practicing. Is it to concentrate the mind and experience bliss and have everything suppressed and pushed away? Or is it to be conscious of what's real? Is it to be awake to the nature of what is here now? And they're such different worldviews. And the more we get to inhabit, we learn to inhabit this one, then life changes, and certainly our sitting meditation, or our meditation in life changes radically. Because our goal then becomes to accept, this is what's happening. It's now. This is what's happening now. This is what's happening now. It's pleasant, it's unpleasant, it's pleasant. So, that said, Mr. Dalton, sir, would you like to conduct some elegant movement? Mindful, elegant movement?
Okay, here we are. Getting in touch with the feet that haven't been doing anything for 45 minutes. There. And rocking a little bit to wake up the bottoms of the feet. Notice how you don't go too far one direction or too far the other, because you have an intelligent body that knows how to be upright and balanced. So we engage that balance. Go forward. Let the toes grip the floor. Go backward. There's no toes back there, so you can't go back as far. But you feel that alarm system in the body that's telling you all the time how things going. We're upright and breathing. Some of us have been doing this for decades. It's amazing. And we sink, and we let the arms rise, and sink again. So where does this movement begin? Am I there at the beginning? Am I there at the end? This other movement, releasing, begins, and then it ends. So I create an intention to be there at that transition point. The end of the breath, the beginning, the end of this cycle, and then the beginning. What happens right at that transition? Can I be there just at the point where there's neither upward or inward breath, or downward or outward breath. Now, can I stay with the gesture all the way through? There's a journey between the beginning and the end. How soon before the mind wanders? Or does it just stay? You know that look of the puppy dog when you say stay and they actually know what you're saying and they do it. Look, I please the human. All right, we're going to lift this time, then change direction and feel the rib cage open, coming back and sinking. The knees release more. We go down a little farther, come up and open. Come back to the center and sink. Can we be with this gesture from the beginning all the way through the journey to transition to open? The pause and return and sink. What if we go overhead? How's that feel in the shoulder socket? Reaching over to one side, painting a rainbow. What does that image of the rainbow do to your feelings in the body? Painting a rainbow. Then releasing, sinking more, crossing the wrists, coming up the center, pressing up and out. We separate the clouds. There's another image for the mind to create and then enjoy, separating clouds. Turning to one side, one hand comes forward, one goes back, and the back hand presses forward while the front hand pulls in, palm up. Then turn your wrists and reverse the process, pushing and pulling, turning, pushing and pulling. So this magical awareness, this mindfulness can be monitoring two completely different movements. A push and a pull at the same time. Is it me doing that? Or is there an intelligence in the body that governs this? Release, drop, roll the shoulders. What does that mean? It means this. This is how it feels. So there's the experience. There's an ending to the gesture, a beginning of the gesture, a journey all the way around, releasing, surrendering to gravity, working against gravity, and releasing. Aware of each phase. Reaching across, letting the heel come off the floor, feel that engagement in the leg that's got the weight, and then let the heel come off the floor on that leg. There's a lightness. Then engagement again. Staying with the arm gesture all the way through and releasing. Training the puppy to stay with the sensations. Now changing, turning and gazing at the moon, a new image, and then a new gesture. Then pressing across, feel the weight engage on one side and on the other. Saying with each sensation, especially the transitions, where does the press end and the release start? And then we cross over with the palm, lift it up, and let the other palm face the earth. Both hands come across the center line. There's a journey, two hands in different positions, and then we switch. One palm facing down, one palm facing in towards the eyes. The eyes lock on that palm, that cloud that's drifting across the sky. But the awareness includes the shadow on the earth too. So this awareness has many functions. Focus and wide open acceptance of the whole sky and cloud and earth and the apparent movement of all the people in the room. When my eyes are still on one hand, all of you seem to move. And some of you disappear. I get over here, I can't find you. Then I come back looking. Where are you? There you are. Okay. So wide open awareness, accepting this round, easy movement as a way of, what did we chant at the beginning? A Sangha, community of mindful harmony. No one's making gestures that are threatening or harmful. Everyone in the room is gliding along like a cloud. How many times has that happened this week? Okay, so that's how we build a mindful harmony in our community. So let's pause, open the hands, and let them face each other, and then just become aware of the sensations in the hands. We've opened up the shoulders. We've been breathing fairly steady and deeply. There's a nice flow of energy in the body. If we open the hands, like as we breathe in and bring them together, it's almost like they can sense each other as they approach, and then they depart. And then they sense each other as they get closer together. So we live in this mindful organism that has all this intelligence, and we waste all our time thinking about tomorrow and the last week. Let the mind get into its, or let the mental processes get into its groove, and look at this is happening right here with no thought required. Once more. Releasing the arms down, sinking, opening to the side, and down the center. Again, once you know the gesture, no thought is required. How does this feel? Can you stay with it? all the way around. No thought, just mindfulness. Once more. Okay, then here's a thought. I'm going to be here on the 20th of July, God willing, and the creek don't rise, to do this for 4 hours. So you're invited to join me. Thank you very much. Did anybody know who brought the fans? Right outside the door on the table, there's some fans. Anybody that's getting warm, you might check that out.
Well, I'll just say a little bit about volunteers. So I'm Kirsten, I'm the volunteer coordinator until August 11th, then I'll be moving to Boulder. First of all, we have so many things that are just like so managed and so many people helping out, and a lot of the needs are filled and taken care of. Raise your hand if you volunteer. Look at that. So many of us help out around here, so thank you all for that. The one thing that is, you're not going to be surprised, consistently challenging to fill is the support for the children's program. So we've got a few regular folks helping out, and if you'd be willing to do just an hour a month, the way we have that set up is we'd have the teacher in there. Rebecca is still not here because her mother is declining, but she'll be back. She's our teacher. And we'd like to have someone supporting her for the first hour during the sit, and then someone else supporting her for the second hour during the Dharma talk. So if you volunteer 1 hour a month, you can choose, which of those slots would work for you. That'd be a huge help, and it allows folks in the community to come who have kids, and that's really important because people with children certainly need the Dharma, right? So another thing, I want to invite Clara up here, and she's going to tell you what happened on Saturday. Yeah. Introduce yourself.
Oh, hi, I'm Clara. I and Jessica are the coordinators for the grounds maintenance, gardening. On Saturday we had a work party, and we had a lot of people turn out, maybe like 12 or 15, close to that. People came and went. And we got a lot of work done, and I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who came. It was really great. So, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Clara. And they'll do more of those as the year goes on, not for a while because they just did it. So go outside and enjoy the beautiful work they've done. And other than that, if you are interested in volunteering, please do come talk to me. One other thing, I know we're needing like one more person who can vacuum on a monthly basis. There's only one empty spot in housekeeping right now. So that's another need. But other than that, we're doing pretty well, just the children's program. So thank you all.
To do this, Kirsten, people who did the gardening yesterday, raise your hands. Thank you. The place looks very spiffy. There's no longer a jungle outside my front door. Did you talk about July the 2nd? So Kirsten and Doyle are doing the monthly NVC practice group on July the 2nd. Thank you, sir. This is not on here. The July 6th day-long retreat is canceled. And that's probably... You could still take a machete to your schedule and come on the Nelson, British Columbia 12-day retreat that I will be leading starting the 6th, the 7th. So that's it. You could just surprise your family and say, honey, I know you'll be fine with the kids. I'll be gone for 2 weeks, and I'll be a much nicer person when I come back, and it'll really be worth your... Actually, I learned early on with my kids and wife that what's the proper thing to say when you come home from teaching or being on retreat and your partner's been home slaving away with the kids? It's not, hey, I had a great time. It's, hi, how are you? And can I take over? July the 20th, Buddhist movie night, screening Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon. Lovely movie. Okay. Oh, and the Dana. Would anyone here spontaneously like to do a 2-minute reflection on Dana? You don't have to, but be nice. I get bored. I'm bored with myself talking about it. I'll bore you again. All right. Here we go. You ready? This is a really noble undertaking, PIMC. It's a freestanding organization. There's no mother church or something that we have to answer to. But also, we have to do it ourselves. This is our place. And it really is our place. It's not my place or Jim's place. It's a non-profit organization that's supported by its members. And I'm with the other teachers also, they run into this unique position to know what happens here. Oh. Take too long to get there. No, it wouldn't. I'm going to do it. See, I told you I'd bore you. This is a good example. What's it called? Messenger. There we go. I think that'll work. Hello, Robert. I wanted to let you know I was able to register for the weekend retreat at Brighton Bush. I've never gone on one, and I'm looking forward to this new experience. I also wanted to share that your Father's Day Dharma talk really touched my soul. It's a long story, but I was able to come home after the talk and think. I thought, I bet he, my dad, would have a lot to say now. I bet he would say, I'm sorry. I bet he would say he loves me. Then I thought, I'm going to go with that. He is sorry and he loves me. And a burden was lifted from me. I sat in my backyard and said out loud, I love you too, Dad. It's okay. We're good. Thank you for giving better than you got. Thank you, Robert, for doing what you do at the center. You'll never know the ripple effects of the efforts of everyone at PIMC. And then I responded, and she responded back. Tears in my eyes, too. I sit with my husband, and tomorrow family arrives. It's a family vacation. They all love me and I love them. It's so interesting how some people disappoint you, then others who know you nothing, who owe you nothing, love you. So grateful. I look forward to the retreat, blah, 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 blah. I hear so often about people's lives being transformed. That Father's Day talk, I didn't particularly think was I wasn't in very great form, I thought, that morning. And yet some words transformed a person's relationship with a deceased, I think, parent. So almost everyone comes to the Dharma bleeding badly, psychologically, emotionally, or something's really out of kilter. Otherwise, why would you try something new? Why would you get up on a Sunday morning and come here? It's because something in us is really hungry, and this time we're living through is pretty upsetting. I know I have several friends who are therapists, and I know a couple of people I know now are looking for competent therapists. You can't get in. They've never been so busy than in this time, when there's so much unsettledness in the outer world. It sets off whatever's happening in the inner world. So all that to say, this is your place, and it exists in the world. It exists in the world of finance and paying bills and doing repairs and putting on the ramp. Eventually that'll happen. And so it needs your caring support. Recently, Gregory Malouf, who some of you know as a marvelous teacher, has come, and he's now doing half-time management, which is incredible. I'm giving him lots of stuff so that I am free to do other things. And to do that, we actually had to increase our budget for this year by 15%. And so if you're a regular donor, the Stewardship Fund online, it would really be great if you'd increase your funding by 15%. Or one of the things we figured out, if everyone who comes to PIMC increased their dana by $5 a week, $20 a month, we'd be able to do all the projects we're needing to do. We'd take care of the undershoot with Gregory. We have a budget of about $170,000 right now. And that kind of blows my mind. I mean, that's actually, geez. But we need to increase it. And someday soon, we're going to have nice pie charts and things to show you how we're doing. But that stuff comes slowly. But consider it. And also, you can use this bowl here, my monk's bowl when I was in Burma. On a Sunday, you can use the wooden box back there. And of course, the teachings are always given freely. And so if your financial circumstances are such that you could give $1, that's great. Because some of us are some of the karma some of us have is we have lots and lots of money. And so if folks that have lots can give more, then the doors always are open, of course, for anyone who can't. In fact, if you want to do one of our classes ever, and I encourage you to do so, there's a wonderful lineup going to be coming out for the fall. When you go to sign up, as soon as you get to the registration page, there's the amount, the recommended amount. Then there's a line which says, can you give more? And then there's a line which says, write your own scholarship amount. And lots of people take advantage of that, both sides of that. So we're caring for each other, and in doing so, we have to run the place. So that's my Dana pitch for today. Oh, big questions. Oh, the hike. Oh, great. Yay. Hard-won cash, that one. So the questions. Just reminded me, 30 years ago, I went to see Krishnamurti, very famous old teacher, in Ojai, and he was elderly. He was 84 or 5 at that point. He walked very stiffly, came in and sat on a stiff wooden chair, and we were all below him, but 150 people. And he said, "I'll take 10 questions." And people asked their questions, and then at the end of when they'd all asked their questions, he repeated them back, which would terrify. I couldn't possibly do that. You'd forget. And he repeated them back and said, "We'll take question number 8 today." And then he zeroed in, and you could see the guy shrink. It's like, now I'm in trouble. Okay, questions. How can we personally change our focus off ourselves, our need to self-protect, and turn toward others without fear? Can you clarify how following the 5 precepts helps my practice? Can I ever awaken, since I seem to break the precepts often? Can you talk about non-clinging and desiring having an intimate relationship / partnership? Pooh. Please. I undertake the rule of training to refrain from taking the life of any living being. Or positively, I aspire to be kind and of service to all beings. First precept. Second, I undertake the rule of training to refrain from taking wow. In my early 20s, a friend showed up at a retreat center I was working at, and he had this really big motorcycle. Big. And he said, "You want to try it?" I said, "Sure." And I was in San Jose, and I found myself up on the freeway going fast. And I looked down, and it was about 120 miles an hour. And I slowed down and took it back to him and said, "I am unfit." Oh boy, bad. So, I undertake the rule of training, or the training of the heart, to remain from taking that which is not freely given. I aspire to become generous to all beings. I undertake the training of the heart to refrain from sexual acts which cause harm. I aspire to become, I aspire to practice love, relationship, and beauty. To use that energy of sexuality, sensuality for love, relationship, and beauty. I undertake the rule of training of the heart, to refrain from speech that causes harm. Lying, slander, gossip, idle chatter. And I aspire to use speech to create harmony, connection, and love in the world. Healing. I undertake the training of the heart to refrain from intoxicants and intoxicating behaviors which dull the mind, create unconsciousness. And I aspire to cultivate love, compassion, awareness, mindfulness. So the precepts. The Buddha said there were lots of different teachers and teachings around in his time. He'd meet teachers and students and convert them to what he was teaching. And one of the things he said was, if you find a teaching that doesn't have moral and ethical behavior, that doesn't have the precepts, It's not a complete teaching, and it won't work. That's kind of interesting. And you run into a bunch. One today, one runs into that. There are people teaching kind of quasi-Buddhism that doesn't have the precepts, and we never get very far when the precepts aren't there. Why? There's a Gam Wilson cartoon where the classic God figure, the old white guy with the long hair, is taking a baking tray out of the oven, and it's got the earth on it. And he says, "Dang, it's only half baked." And we're really only half baked, right? We're mammals, and we're subject to the prime directive, which is stay alive. Stay alive long enough to pass on your genes. And that's the imperative. And beside that, emerging also is be loving, be kind, be caring, be generous. And the precepts align us toward the side of that latter piece. Is it true? Is it true that we are actually one organism? Is it true that the consciousness in this room is one, and that to see clearly is to love each other, and to realize that selfishness, greed, hatred, all arises from misperception? That love is our nature. Is that really true? Or is that just an ideology, a fantasy somebody had? Or is it true that my task in life is to get as much pleasure as I possibly can and avoid pain as much as I can and look out for myself, my little family, or my, quote, nation, and that it's okay to kill people because they might interfere with my well-being? Which is true, or which do you want to align with? And all the great spiritual teachings land us in the first category. There's a beautiful little poem from Rumi, 12th century Sufi mystic. Inside the great mystery that is, got my drum. Inside the great mystery that is, we never really own anything. So what is this strange competition we feel then, before we go one at a time through the same gate? Inside the great mystery that is, we never really own anything. So what is this strange competition we feel then, before we go one at a time through the same gate? I've had trouble since childhood with private property. Very early, it started seeming really wrong to me. And it comes today to this absolutely bizarre misdistribution of wealth, which is all over the world. Right? What in us is there? What is it in us that would want me to have more billions? It's kind of strange. It's part of our mammalian grasping, trying to feel safe. Right? I want to feel safe. And I have a friend who works amidst the 0.1% folks, and he says they worry a lot about money. Interesting. And there's no reason to do that, but that's where meaning and safety comes from. So, if we're in this camp, then we might be inclined to kill other persons. I mean, in terms of the precepts, if we took the first precept and just said, planetary-wise, we won't kill human beings, it'd be a different game. Just that. So, if I want to live in a mind which is at ease and feels safe, it behooves me to live kindly. Because the revenge killings that happen around, or the revenge that we take on each other. If we haven't harmed somebody else, then we don't need to be anxious about whether they're going to kidnap our kid or whatever. Because there's no cause. We've snipped that cause. Or taking what's not freely given. Living honestly and with great generosity, we endear people to us. So we live a life where we're safer again. To live by the precept, one of the things that we do with the precepts is there's a word for it. I forget it in Pali, but it's the gift of safety. That if I'm living by the precepts, those around me feel safe. Because they know if I say I'm going to do something or not do something, they don't need to worry because they can trust me. Third precept, I undertake the training of the heart to refrain from sexual acts which cause harm. I once saw Jack Kornfield do this. Please raise your hand if you've ever acted really insanely around sexuality and caused a big mess. Why? Well, because Mom has one purpose: babies. And so we go crazy and we break our vows, and so to have an intention, a cognitive wall, is something that is true across cultures, which is try not to do that. Because when you do, the mess is terrible. And then you feel bad. And then when you're sitting in meditation, you've got remorse happening rather than ease. Speech, lying, slander, and so on. If we speak, here's a good example. If we gossip about someone, how is it the next time you meet them? Can you be open and honest and intimate? Or is there something in between which is, the other day I was talking to so-and-so and I said this about you which wasn't true. So we can create a chasm between ourselves and other people by speaking ill of them. And then we start that, and then it's very difficult to heal. And then also if we lie, who's had this experience? You got off on a bit of a run with lying, and then it had to get totally out of control. You ever have that one? We bought, some years ago, Jennifer and I bought my daughter Tara a car, and we wanted to do it secretly, and so we had to start lying. I got close at the end to saying, I give up, let's just give her the damn car. Because people blew it, and it turned out that it was a surprise, but I had to lie 10 or 15 times to make this a surprise. And then intoxication. Why do we do it? Why is there 2 rows of wine in all the supermarkets? Why are our liquor stores so How can all these pot shops be surviving? When I bicycle home, well, it's either way. There's at least 7 pot shops between here and Beaverton on my route, and I keep thinking they're going to close. And there'll be a shakedown. Nope. Why? And then these. The intoxication of this is astounding. So, if we want to live according to the precepts, we have to be conscious enough to know what they are, to remember what they are, and so being careful what we do about intoxicating ourselves is really fundamental. So, to close the loop, I've seen in this life that as the behavior becomes more in keeping with the precepts, there really is more ease. And there's a lot more getting along with family members, and they provide a guide for us. And it's such an interesting meditation to know the precepts and then to watch how one fails to do them impeccably. And then you can go into self-hatred, oh, I shouldn't be doing that. But more skillfully, it's, look at this. Wow, look at that. I just did this again. I just exaggerated again. Or I just couldn't be honest in that circumstance. Or you can, I'm sure if you reflect for a moment, the places where you're not living, they call it nice, it's called uprightness of heart. When you live with uprightness of heart, your meditation also goes deeper. One of the common experiences of people, and I've had this numerous times, when they come on retreat, or go on retreat, is that stuff comes up, misbehavior, unskillful behavior comes up from years earlier. And it's upsetting. It's been upsetting down deep all along, but then we're not distracting now, and up it comes. There's a story I have often told about stealing was never my thing at all. But in graduate school in Toronto, I came upon a salad, a tray of salads, and I stole a salad. And it was exciting. It was really exciting. I stole something. And, a big institution, they'll never miss it. I've given this school enough money, all that justification. And then 3 years later or 4 years later, I was on retreat and that stupid salad came up. And it was a day or two or more of, I shouldn't have done that. And I went to my preceptor, the monk that I was studying, and there's a picture of him in above the coffee. And he said, take your precepts again. And if you ever have a chance to make restitution, do so. So I happened to be back there in Toronto one time, 3 years after that, and I went and I paid the manager for my salad. He thought I was a bit of a nutcase, but it's like, puts his till out of balance or something. But it felt good. It's like, yeah, this is, and not that that's always the thing to do, but sometimes restitution causes pain on the other end. Yeah.
Could you say something more about what you mean by taking the precepts again?
There's a ritual that we can do. We can do it for ourselves, or we haven't done that here at this center. We'll do another one of those. We can do a formal public, I intend to follow the precepts. This is a big piece of my practice, to follow the precepts. If you only follow the precepts, your life will transform. In fact, in Asia, traditionally, the monks had the meditation practices for themselves, and the lay people practiced dana, sila, generosity, and moral and ethical behavior. They didn't meditate. They weren't offered meditation. It's only been in the last less than 100 years that meditation has come to the lay people. And U Ba Khin, Ruth Dennison's teacher, had in mind it should go to the West. And so that's part of how it got here. So that's, how does it help my practice? Can I ever awaken since I seem to break them often? The precepts are grist for the mill of awakening. That I think I'm in control, and look at that, I did it again. wow, I did it again. I did it again. And with some of our addictive compulsive patterns, we may do it again for years. And then we may, something transformative happens, and then we don't do it for a while, and then we relapse into it again. And it's not just substances, it can be behaviors of all kinds. It gets so that my physician's office has advertising pens. They're nice pens. I like pens. And I always ask if I'm going to take one. It feels so good. And the person behind the desk could care less. But just to say, may I have one of these? And not only do we then have a nice interaction, but it's completely clear at the deepest level that my wanting, my greed, isn't offensive to anyone, and I'm safer that way. In relationship, we can take what's not freely given from partners. We can demand more attention when it's the wrong moment. There's lots of ways we can apply these. So, yeah, I'm having a debate to open it up or to come back to these. I think I'll do this first. Oops, same one. Oh my, can you talk about non-clinging and desiring having an intimate relationship or partnership? I was reading the other day that 50% of, I want to say young people, people between the ages of 28 and 42 are not in relationship, and many, many would like to. And it's a very it's never been so strong, it's never been so, and what people do is they think, and I've talked with many people about this, everyone thinks it's personal to them. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with my body? What's wrong with my personality? Why didn't I? And there's this whole anguish about it. And then there's Tinder and some online dating and the difficulties of it. It's really difficult. And for those people for whom it's difficult, there's things to do, but the primary, the Dharma thing is to really enter into that longing, and to watch, for instance, the self-hatred that can come up in it, and to recognize, to be able to see that self-hatred as not personal. It's just the mind doing its thing in this time where it's difficult to meet people. One dynamic that I'm familiar with, not personally, but I've sat with many young women, there's that humongous ticking that starts happening at a certain age, as if I'm going to have a baby, I have to do it now. And that can lead to some really driven behaviors. I'm going to do something I've never done before. I'm going to say, please excuse me for a moment. I'll be right back. I'm going that way. To the restroom. Unprofessional, but so maybe turn to your neighbor and talk about this.
All sorts of wonderful ways.
Would you ring the bell, Jim? Would you ring the bell? Yeah. "40 years teaching, there's always a first." Life's really hard, isn't it? Way back at the beginning, the Buddha talked about having experiences we don't want to have, not having experiences we do want to have. Right? I really want to be in an intimate relationship. I really want a partner. I really want a baby. And then sometimes it doesn't happen. Or it happens and then it goes bad. Or somebody dies. I mean, it's so unstable. So not having experiences I want, having experiences I don't want, not being with the person that I want, missing the beloved. What a suffering that is. The beloved that you know, and you've been in a relationship with, and they've fallen ill, or they've gone off to war, or something's happened, their job had them move, or there's having a worldview that really acknowledges how common disappointment is. Allows us to go through disappointments, harming ourselves and others less and less. Because we tend to think, I've done something wrong, or God's punishing me, or somebody's to blame, and we create lots more suffering. Now, the teachings, as I understand them, don't say, don't do everything you can to achieve your goal, or experience the object of your desire, as long as it's not hurting somebody. So, around being in relationship, placing ourselves in contexts where we might meet someone, or using an online dating service, or talking with friends, or doing some therapy can be very helpful. Some therapy if you can find a therapist. Really. But then, when we've done everything that we can, maybe continue in the quest, but also moving in our practice to that place of accepting things exactly as they are. This is how it is. It's clear to me that relationship isn't the source of happiness, nor is having kids, nor is money, nor is the great vacation, oh boy, that's going to really make us happy, nor is whatever, because nothing really does it. That which does lead to contentment is practice and accepting that everything's impermanent. And learning to love each other is part of that, I think. Big questions, aren't they? How can we personally change our focus off ourselves, our need to self-protect, and turn toward others without fear? Relationship's a fearful thing. What if you really do meet that person that you've always dreamed of meeting? And then you get into a relationship, and then either it blows up or goes south, or then they get sick or die. It's quite a hot fire, this relationship one. Someone asked Stephen Levine, a famous Buddhist teacher, what do you do if you're, I forget the question, but his answer was, well, why not enter into a relationship and become as intimate as you possibly can? And then when it ends or one of you dies, all those nerve endings, that willingness to be vulnerable, in the terminology he used, go home to God. That we can keep ourselves sheltered and fearful, and I won't take the risk, but then we stay, that's how vulnerable we are, that's how capable of love we are. But if we take the risk, we then learn to open, and we can be more loving. When I look back on my life there's about 8 really deep relationships, serial monogamy, and each time a relationship ended, sometimes not at my bidding, not because I wanted it to, but I was able to enter the next relationship at a higher level of differentiation, and it was better. The relationship was better. I was more capable of relating. And that persists to this day. My wife Jennifer and I have been in couples therapy for 4 years, and it's bearing some terrific fruit. And the fruit is accepting each other as we are. She refuses to change, to be I mean, I'm an accomplished meditation teacher. And I'm really unconscious in some areas in relationship that really, and we've really been working to acknowledge that. Remember John Gottman, the couples master, the great couples research guy, the only person really who's done serious couples research, says that the people he calls the masters of marriage, the masters of long-term relationship, have resolved, are you ready for this? 30% of their conflictual issues. The other 70% remain objects of conflict, discussion, negotiation, and hopefully compassion and humor. Because the other is always a disappointment. Because we're so different. So that doesn't, no notion in that, well, don't be in relationship, but to come into relationship. And that first little while, isn't that first little while nice? When we're in the dreams of projection and new sex and this, oh, it's so good, and then something happens, and then we have to start learning how to love each other. And that's hard. So to change the focus off ourselves, I think part of taking the focus off ourselves is to focus so fully on ourselves, to focus so fully on ourselves that we actually feel full. That we realize that that happiness doesn't come from being filled with something from the outside. It comes from the inside. It's the natural contentment which is arising from the fact that we are everything. We are the Buddha. That which knows is always there. I guess one last thing I want to say, which is our happiness and contentment do not improve by not turning inward and feeling what's really going on. Right? We must do the grieving that we have. If we want to be fully alive, we must make enough space, time to really to greet that anguish that's in there from our childhoods. To greet the shadow material we have, the repressed sexuality, or the anger or hatred, or the stuff that we project on the enemy. That it's only through opening to that we can really relax, and then not be not be projecting the evil on the enemy or the good lovingness on other people, but really recognizing, oh, I am this. Is that making sense? It's a huge notion that I've met so many people over the years who because I've had for a long time a psychotherapy practice too, and we meet, and there's this struggle to not be as to present oneself as, well, I've got a little bit of a problem, but I won't show you the wreck I really am inside here, because then I would fall apart. I'd never stop crying, or I'd never stop raging, or you, the person I'm greeting, you'd never like me. I mean, who could like this? And so then we are then condemning ourselves, and that this is not lovable. That who I am is not lovable. And of course, what we are is lovable. And in the human condition, we're dealing with all kinds of stuff. So I hope those are useful responses to these questions. Those who ask them, if you want to come and talk to me after, I'd be happy. If there's a question in there that I didn't get close to, which can certainly happen. So we have a little handful of minutes. Anybody want to say anything or share something? There you are, Paul. Aloha, by the way.
Aloha kahakiaka. Good morning. Hi, my name is Paul. When you were talking about taking the tension off of ourselves, it brought back a memory of a practice you did some years ago. And what I found was that at the end of this practice, it provided a very big opening to that experience of taking the attention off of the self. And you had us write down some messages that we tell ourselves on a regular basis that are terribly negative, right?
Yeah.
What is that recurring thing that you say to yourself that is overly critical or negative? And so you write this message down, and we put it in the bowl, and you came up and you organized them, right? At the end of the thing, you realized, huh?
We what?
You organized them. You grouped them together.
No.
So what it turns out is that I wasn't the only one in the room who had that terrible thing I was saying to myself. There were two or three other people. And then there were other groups. There were chunks of people, you know? And so you start to realize, after you've looked inward and you look at this terrible thing that you were saying to yourself, oh, I've looked inward, I've seen this, I see it for what it is. I'm not the only one in the room who has to experience this.
Yeah.
So it's that moment. It's just like when you were experiencing this morning, when you're asking people, in a very general sense, who experienced wanting, 3 or 4 people raised their hands. Who experienced distraction, doubt. It's not everyone, but there's groups of people. They go through these. We all go through these different things. And so when you touch into that and you realize I'm not the only one in the room, you've looked inward and you've also looked outward to say, holy smokes. It's like the inverse of like when you meet somebody who likes that goofy thing that you like to do. Oh, you like Star Wars? I like Star Wars too. It's the inverse of like, oh my goodness, you say that to yourself? Holy smokes.
Yeah.
I'm not the only one, and you're not the only one. You don't even have to know the other person just to know that somebody else in the room went through that. I think that's the power in what a lot of addiction support groups do. There's that power in the room of being able to express that thing that triggers the addiction, and to hear somebody else in the room say, yeah, that I've been there, man, and that really brings it out, and to have that shared moment really takes you out of yourself.
Yeah. Thank you. One way that I've done, actually, Christine Howard and I decided Friday that we're going to teach a one-day workshop on self-hatred this fall. And one of the exercises we'll do that I chanced upon was this one, a variation of this, in which everyone wrote down on an identical sheet of paper all the self-hating thoughts they had that they were willing to put on paper. And then they folded them up and put them in the bowl, and then we passed the bowl around, and everybody took out someone else's, and then we read them. The first time I did it, I thought, oh my God, I have totally blown it. We're headed into the darkness and we'll never get out. And then by the end, something had happened, and I think what you're describing, that we started realizing, oh, it isn't just me. This is pretty normative for this group of people. I mean, what a strange selection of people that we got, all the people in the world who are this full of self-hatred. But but then we moved on also to do another couple of things about bringing out one's beauty and sharing that in community. What kind thing have you done in the last week that you're proud of or happy of? It starts changing. So thank you. Do we have kids in the chute? Oh, we do. Okay. So thank you all. I hope this was good, helpful. Let's make a circle around the candle and we'll have the kids blow it out. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Ah. Oh. Hey. Okay. It's a long way down to the floor, isn't it? Oh, style. There. Well, you have a jar of your mind, I see. May I have your hand? Can we reach? Uh-oh, having to move. Great, thank you. All right, so. Please let us really feel that hand on your right, in your right hand. And what's it like to love that hand in person? To make an aspiration, I really want to accept you as fully as I can, exactly as you are. And the hand on your left, and give that hand a little squeeze, and I really want to love and accept you exactly as you are. To encourage you in your journey of awakening. And then around the whole circle you're holding hands with. We may not know we don't know each other's personal private stories, but we know the real story, that we're all making our way through a lifetime that's pretty darn hard at times. We have a human mind that is challenging. And so including everyone in the room, and then everyone who's ever been in this room. There's been people coming in this room since 1930. Tens of thousands of people. There was, before we bought the building, it was the Gypsy Church, the Romani Church for southwestern Washington and Oregon, northwestern Oregon. It really rocked. There was a soundboard up there that had 20 inputs. So, may all beings in all the countries, beings of the air, the earth, and the waters, all our relations, may those beings in political power and those in great poverty and struggle, those being born today and those passing away today, all of us, may we all know happiness, the causes of happiness, and the path to happiness. So, it's that time. Who do we have? Yay. All right. You want me to help? 1, 2, 3. May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you. Yay. All right. Well, shall we get close to the candle? I see. Now, let's not get our hair on fire, okay? Hang on. All right, we're going to do the count. Think of a wish. You people at home, too. Remember, what's your wish? What's the longing of your heart at this moment? Are we ready? 1, 2, 3, blow. Yes, yay. Well, thank you. I think I'm gone next week. Yes, I'm gone for a couple of weeks. So I forget who's teaching, but yeah. Anyway, one of our illustrious other teachers will be teaching. Please do come, and come now, have some tea and cookies and goodness together. Bye-bye. Goodbye. Thank you, friends, for being here on the internet.